All right, we're live.
Perfect.
Welcome to episode 2, everybody. We're going to try this different format on the Zoom call and see how it works out. Feels right. So today we're going to talk about finances. Adam and I were talking, and we kind of decided that that's where it all begins. And if you're looking to add some leverage into your life, pretty much the biggest lever you can pull and the linchpin to the whole thing is getting your finances under control. And because operating from a broke, desperate mindset doesn't get you what you want. At least that's what I learned and seems to hold true. So we have some talking points on here. Do you want me to just go into my story a little bit, Adam, and kind of talk about how it all worked for us? Or do you want to give the background?
Nope, go for it. Let's have you start out, then I'll interject and we'll go from there.
Okay. So for me, we started doing these accountability meetings last year and started making big changes in life. And you've been preaching at me for a long time about finances. And this goes back to what we talked about in episode 1 too, where you can have all the knowledge in the world, but it's the application. And so if you don't make the effort to apply the things that you know to be true, then I mean, yeah, you can have all the information in the world, but if you don't apply it, it's not going to get you anywhere. So, you'd been talking at me a lot and I hadn't been applying a lot of the lessons. Even way back in the day when I was a kid, I took Dave Ramsey's class and I read his books and I knew about debt snowball and, I like to read finance books too. And so I knew all the tools and I knew all the metrics and I knew what I had to do, but I was using it as an excuse saying, well, I'm in the red every week. You remember me telling you this. And then, I pay my bills and everything's going out and there's nothing I can do. So I had to kind of get past that, and you helped me kind of work through some of those issues. And, one thing you told me was that, there's always money and you can find it somewhere, and start writing everything down. And so I started logging everything and I went through and I canceled all my subscriptions, trimmed the fat where I could, got serious about it. And that helped a lot. That was a big thing. And this is going to be different for everybody. But one of the big things for me that helped a lot was rereading, because I read The Richest Man in Babylon. I read that last year and it was a great book. Awesome. A lot of great information about money management, finances in there, kind of in a parable format. But again, didn't apply it. So when I was going through and trimming all the fat, I reread that book and it got me inspired again. And one of the big takeaways for me was 30% of all you earn is yours to keep. And I think the other thing that I kind of held on to, I kind of had 2 mantras. That was one of them. And the other one was from Robert Kiyosaki, where he says, pay yourself first. And so I incorporated those and I made sure that at the beginning of every week, I paid myself first, and I developed the mentality that that's my money and that's mine to keep. And I make a set amount every week, and right off the top, Zach gets paid, and it feels good, dude. That's the big part. You're like, okay, here we go. Putting that away. That's for me. And so it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it reinforces the habit. It reinforces the habit really well because it feels good to pay yourself and get rid of the scarcity mindset. Once you start seeing that number climbing. And then, what you have to kind of get comfortable with too is, like, at the beginning, some bills are not going to get paid. and you have to tell people like, I'm sorry, I'm going to get you. I'll get you. I will pay you eventually, but right now I'm paying myself first. And so, and what, so, and then that's why those two kind of work in tandem, because the first one, pay yourself 30% of yours is 30% of what you earn is yours to keep. And then also what I said earlier about writing down all my finances, seeing where I could trim the fat. And so by eliminating some unnecessary spending and then paying yourself first, you do find a way, just like you find a way to spend all your money when you're spending it, you do find a way to pay yourself first and get your bills paid too. Like the money's there. And if it's not, then you need to seriously reduce your lifestyle because you're living above your means. And so just to kind of wrap it up, you know, God, what it's like 3 months, or let's call it 6, really 6 months. I hit my 6 month savings goal, or I hit my 1 year savings goal like in under 6 months. So I set out the intention. I said, I'm going to save $25,000 by the end of 2021. And then I looked down in March and I was almost already there. So the power of savings and the power of paying yourself first shouldn't be underestimated. And it's given me a lot of comfort and security having all that money in the bank and having those systems in place to make bigger moves. So, and that's all we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to do is big moves. So, and you can't make any big moves if your bank account's zero and, you know, you're worried about getting food in the fridge and paying your mortgage. So that's kind of my story, and it's still evolving, and it's a work in progress, but that's where I'm at.
But it was difficult for you to get there, right? Like when we first started talking, you know, your family, you got a family of 3, right? Plus you 4. And anytime we would talk, you had your set ways of how everything worked. You ate a strict diet of X, Y, or Z. Your entire family, like everything across the board was almost like a preconceived, I don't know the right word for it, not notion, but like you had your life set and it was non-negotiable. You couldn't see another way, which is, I think, what a lot of people face, and I face it as well myself, like being able to trim the fat. We make it sound easy. Just trim the fat. It's easy. There's money to be saved, but with everybody else, as the same as you, I would preach this to you and you'd say, bullshit, dude, you don't get it. It's tough to figure out how to trim the fat, which is, there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different techniques, but you basically just have to break everything down, track it, record it, and actually understand and prioritize where your money is going so that you have the ability to pay yourself first. But that's really a difficult step for a lot of people, is understanding the difference between like necessities and wants. What's a need and what's a want? That's a super big one. Yes, we all want to provide for the wife and the kids with new toys, new phones, new this, new that. But at the same time, it's like, what's your overall goal? Once you set a goal for the direction that you're going and you get dead set on that, then you can make stuff work. I listened to a study a while back and they were talking, the guy was talking about money and business, and he said, live your life like a drug addict. Interesting enough analogy, but it goes down to, have you ever seen a drug addict without drugs? No. They will always find a way, no matter what. They will find a way to get what they need. That's what you have to learn to do. One way or another, trim the fat, hide your money, do your stuff. You are not going to die if you are taking 20% of your income or 30% and rat holing it somewhere. You're not going to die. You just improvise. You learn how to live on in a different format than what you previously were. It's very similar to the more you make, the more you spend. So just pretend like you don't make as much. I don't care if you're
Right.
working at Taco Bell or wherever the hell you're working. You can rat hole money. You can pretend like you don't have it. If it's never touching your checking account, that doesn't exist. Hide it somewhere else, but just make sure you have a purpose and a goal for what you're actually doing.
Right. And I think there's two important things you said that I want to touch on. And one is, so I guess I want to touch on it in this way. And this is the mindset I always had, was that I always thought that I would make more money. I would become a superintendent and I would have more money. And that's how I would save. And that's how I'd move my life forward. Or I was always working side jobs, so busy, working constantly. Right. But guess what? Working endlessly didn't change. The bank account balance didn't change. And this turns into what they call hedonistic adaptation. So the more money you make, the more money you spend. And then as you kind of graduate and move up the career fields and your income increases, so does your lifestyle. And so you make more money, you move into a bigger house, and then you have a nicer car. And so your bills go up, and then you have the country club membership. And so you start stacking things on top there, and they lose value as you move up. And the things that you were happy living in the little apartment and going out on the weekends and maybe like going to see a movie or something. But then as your income increased, so did your lifestyle. And I was seeing that to a lesser extent with side jobs and different income streams. Like, I always thought that was the answer, but the systems weren't in place. Those systems that I talked about, and saving 30% of my income and paying myself first. Like, you can make as much money as you want, dude. But if you're not paying yourself first and you're not saving the money and you don't have that right mindset, it doesn't matter how much you make.
And paying yourself first, that's a very broad term. A lot of the time we've all heard that. I definitely heard it growing up. But what does it actually mean? Like, paying yourself first, like what does that mean to you?
Well, I think paying myself first it's a more understandable way for me to frame savings. So everyone says, you need to save some money, save like that. I mean, and we've all heard that too, but it didn't really register. But one thing that Naval Ravikant says is guard your time. It's all you have. And so I started thinking about that through the financial lens. And it's like, guard your money. That's all you have. And so paying myself first framed it in the way that I was like, I'm making all this money and I'm giving it to other people. Like, sure, I'm getting in exchange services or nice things, or I'm making my house nicer, but I'm not getting that money. And the money is what is going to bring security and opportunity. So paying myself first, like, yeah, it's great that, you got a brand new flat screen television, but what did Zach get? Zach didn't get anything. Sony got a bunch of money. Right. And so it's like investing in yourself. That's what it means to me.
And I think investing in yourself, I think a lot has to do with putting money away and trying to create like hide your money and make your money work for you. I think what is it, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that talks a lot about this, like, make your money work for you while you're not working. Because if you're only trying to base money off of your work, like, you're only going to get paid literally until the day that you die, right? They're making money off the sweat off your back. So you have to figure out how to take your money and put it somewhere that it's actually going to in turn make you money. It sounds kind of stupid and simple, but you really do. Because if you put it in a savings account, what's your annual return on a savings account?
Yeah, not a lot.
1%, 2%.
Yeah, 2% would be great. I don't even think that's even hard to get, right? I think Mr. Money Mustache calls them your little green workers. So, and he talks a lot about investment strategies. And so the more money you have, like across time, the S&P 500, like the returns on an index fund are about 8% a year. Well, the more money you've been able to rat hole away and put in your index fund, like, dude, 8%'s a lot. You know, that's 8,000. If you have 100 grand in your index fund, that's $8,000 a year. You can get much better returns. But then look at that from the other side. The flip side is that, well, if you don't have any money and you don't have any little green workers, you have to go and trade your time for money. And then every time that money goes out, you have to go back out and trade more time to get more money. So the goal is pay yourself first, take that 30% and put it to work. Put it into your own companies, put it into investments, put it into the stock market, and start building that portfolio that's going to assets, right? That's what we're all trying to do. There's this, I wrote this before we got down here. I wrote this quote down from Naval. It's a tweet that says, seek wealth, not money or status. Wealth is having assets that earn while you sleep. So money is how we transfer time, right? It's just the exchange, and you got to get away from that. You got to get away from renting out your time, leaving your family, going to a job that's going to pay you some amount of money, and then you bring that home. So you got to get away from you being the one working, and you got to make the money work for you. And I think that's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, which is a good direction, right? Which
yeah,
we've seen good returns doing it that way as well.
Yep. And the other thing Joe Rogan said on that podcast about desperate men, he said the first thing you have to do is save up enough money. If you're stuck in a job that you freaking hate and you're showing up to do it every day and it sucks, first thing you have to do is save enough money to buy yourself enough time, buy yourself that window to do what you're really passionate about. If you're not paying yourself first, you don't get that window.
Yeah, that's a big way of like creating an opportunity for yourself. If you don't have any time to focus on yourself, like you're not going to make the proper investments and you're not going to continue to build growth. Like it takes, first off, time and knowledge to be able to build growth and invest your money in certain areas or certain directions. But if you don't have the time to do it, yeah, if you're a slave to your paycheck, it's tough. That's a hard place to be.
The other thing that's a big part of this that I had to change was moving from a short-term mindset to a long-term mindset. Because putting away $300 a week sure doesn't seem like a lot. It's like, well, what where's that really going to get me? It sounds so small. And then you see it in your savings account and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's like, all right, I have bills I need to pay, but I guess I'll put that over there and hope it turns into something. But you have to think further out than that. And that's where it circles back to writing down the goals and the intentions. And then I wrote down that $25,000 number, and I focused more on the $25,000 number than the number I was putting away every week, because it seemed small and it didn't motivate me. And so focusing on that $25,000 and that longer term, and then I also have $100,000 written down, and so who knows when I'm going to get there, but that's what I'm focused on. And I don't even think I've automated the savings. Like that just happens on its own. But people who are thinking in the short term, you're never going to make it. That is the wrong way to frame anything, especially in this space, especially in wealth. Wealth happens slow. And so you have to be patient and you have to have a long-term mindset. somebody said this on a podcast recently. He said the wealthiest people buy assets and hold them for 100 years. That's what they do. They buy real estate in Manhattan. They hold it for their entire life. Warren Buffett, he looks at different projects. He makes like one investment a year. And then the rest of the time he just reads the newspaper and plays golf. But he makes one good investment and he doesn't sell. He just keeps buying and accumulating, and he's in it for the long run. And so that was an important step for me to go from thinking about tomorrow to thinking about 35-year-old Zach. Like I write voice memos all the time. I'll be in the car and I record a voice memo to 35-year-old Zach. And I'm like, I hope you're enjoying all that money. I put away $300 for you today. You know, I hope it's $1 million. That's what I got written down. And so, you know, thinking like that and thinking about future, you know, it's not about who you are now. It's about who you're going to be in 5 years and becoming the millionaire. It's not about having $1 million. It's about who you become through the journey of becoming a millionaire. That those habits and the systems in place, like if you give a poor guy $1 million, it'll be gone because he doesn't know how to take care of it. He doesn't have the systems in place. He doesn't have that mindset. He doesn't pay himself first. So he's going to go out and he's going to buy a yacht and a big house, and he's not going to be able to pay taxes on any of it. And he parties with his friends and it's gone. So it's not about having $1 million. It's becoming a millionaire in your mind. And these are just all the kind of little things that I like to hang on and remind myself of to keep moving forward.
I think one of the things you said, I think, wasn't it Jim Rohn about making $1 million?
Yes.
It's not about making $1 million. It's the man that you become or who you become while working down that path to becoming a millionaire.
That's a Rohnism. Yeah, for sure.
A Rohnism. I like it. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I got there's a lot of Jim Rohn up here.
Yeah, you got to be patient. You got to be patient. You got to be cautious.
Yeah. Yep. So let's see what else I got written down. Yeah, and then the other thing I write down in my journal every day is I write today, like bottom of my journal is 62 weeks to freedom, 219 weeks to $1 million. I write that down every day. I'm literally counting down the weeks. And I stole that from Jesse Itzler. He was writing down how many days until he was dead, you know, and they're like,
that's all
right. Yeah, that's not what I'm focused on. Like I'm focused on becoming wealthy. And so, and I think he'd like write it on his hand or his arm or something, but I just write it down every day so that, by the time I'm next year at my birthday, when I turn 32, like I plan to have my financial freedom, or at least my life set up in a way where I am more free with my time. And I'm free to live where I want and do what I want. And so writing that down every day, that long-term mindset, it's like a midterm mindset. I mean, that's pretty short, but, and then the $1 million mark, I have to write that down and look at it every day. And I'm like, crap, 219 weeks is not a lot of time. And so it just ensures that I'm reminding myself to take massive action, and I'm keeping that at the front of my mind, like getting there. 62 weeks to be free. Like, are we doing everything we can today to maximize our day to move towards economic freedom?
And it really comes down to, I think, just kind of stemming off of that, like it comes down to processes. Like, it's great to have a grandiose idea of I want this, but it's not as simple as writing the number down on a piece of paper or telling yourself something every day, because we can all look in the mirror and wish we had $1 million every single day. But without the action and the follow through and the sacrifice to get there, it's not a thing. It's not realistic. It's just a desire. And I think you and I went through a lot of this at the very beginning of just getting specific on what you want. So that it's in 2 years, you want $1 million. So you have to break it down, right? Just like you're talking right now. You break it down week by week by week basis, right? And within those weeks, you make plans. So your finances have to do certain things. It's just simple calculations. You can take it from a 5-year plan or a 2-year plan or wherever you want. You work backwards, calculate it. That means you have to make X amount of dollars per week to get somewhere. Which, when you work a regular 9-to-5 job, you'll come to the conclusion really quick. You're not going to make where you want to be.
I already did the math. It's $4,000 a week. They ain't paying me that.
Yeah, you are not going to make it.
Yeah.
So the entire objective is that you have to start at the end, work your way back, and say, okay, the sweat off my back isn't going to get me X, Y, or Z. It's not going to get me where I want to go. What else can I do? Or with that money that I am making, how much can I save? Where can I put it? And what's the best growth? And sometimes it's real estate. Sometimes it's the stock market. Sometimes it's side work, but which we've learned you have to be very careful with, because again, you're trading your time. If it's side work, you're trading your time for a short-term amount of money. But the planning is super huge, and that's what I don't want people to overlook, is just, well, you can just put it out there in the universe and it's just going to come to you. No, it's not. Like, you have to crunch constantly and redesign your life for necessity. You know, wants, necessity versus, trying to think of it, but wants versus desires, because you'll learn really quick while what we call trimming the fat. Like, you don't need a lot of the shit that you have, and you're leaving a lot of money on the table that could be used to make you more money in an investment mindset. But just learning how to trim everything down and kind of live not within your means, but below your means, because everybody for the most part is trying to live outside of their means. We want the big trucks, the big cars, the nice houses, everything else, which that enslaves you for working for a paycheck. It's a live to eat. The more you make, the more you spend. You make $100,000 a year, you buy a $500,000 house, it takes 90% of your paycheck away just for that, plus a couple cars, then kids, daycare, X, Y, or Z. Any kind of format that you get into, whether you're a McDonald's worker, a construction worker, just up the chain, you'll see the same thing. The only way to like actually curb everything is to pretend you're broke. And I mean like broke. And people have a really hard time doing this. I think we all want to feel justified to some degree. And so we want the nice car to drive. Like, we want to see that physical result, right? It's a measurable thing that, you know, I bust my ass, I can drive a nice car. But you're financing the nice car because you haven't had the ability to save the money to just cash out and pay it. But I don't know, I think that's a huge thing that people always fight, is just being able to actually stop rationalizing, save your money, and again, trim the fat.
And then, right. And that also comes down to how bad do you want it? Because for some people, you know, they may want just 6 months of savings, or, you know, and then they're okay with, because it's a spectrum, right? And I tend to be more on the extreme side, and so do you. We won't get into that right now, but you know, it's how bad do you want it? Because the money's there. The money's there. It's how much can your ego take? How much can your self-esteem take? How far have you escalated your life already to where, you know, do you want it bad enough to where you're going to be moving out of that nice neighborhood and saying goodbye to all your friends and moving into a duplex somewhere and driving a 1998 Toyota Corolla and giving back your other car? Because there's steps, and how bad do you want it, right? So it's It's sacrifices mixed with your commitment to change, mixed with how radical do you want it to be. So there's some kind of an equation there, but the answer, it's going to be different for everybody. The system is the same. It's just your timeline. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on was that we were talking about equation and kind of like mapping out a process to get nice. Kind of said, well, it's $4,000 a week for me to get to my $1 million mark by my 35th birthday. The important thing to understand there is that it's like Einstein said, the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. And so when you get to $300,000 in the bank, things start to move a lot faster, because an 8 or 12% return on $300,000 compounding over time, or when you're 2 years in and you've bought those properties and you fixed them up and you're renting out both of those, plus your savings, plus anything else you were able to implement in your life, like it starts to go a lot faster. So circling back again to the long-term mindset, you start with $300 a week. You start with taking maybe even 20% out of every paycheck and paying yourself first, but all of that is compounding, and it gets easier and it happens faster. So those last 2 years are probably gonna be awesome. Probably gonna be making tons of money, and it's gonna feel a lot better than paying myself these larger portions and those little green workers. I'm gonna have an army. I probably got like 5 green workers right now. They're trying their best. They're working their freaking ass off, but they can only dig so fast. So you need to get more workers, more hammers, and they can build the buildings faster, and they get more efficient.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. Go ahead and send me that plan. Can you send that in a PDF so I can just go ahead and check those boxes?
Okay, let's see. What are we at? We're doing pretty good for time.
No clue. I got a little timer on my screen.
Yeah. I don't know what we're doing. Is there anything else? I wrote down, I pretty much touched on everything I wanted to touch on. I guess if I was going to say anything else is, like you said, calculating stuff out and running the numbers, that's good. That never really worked for me. And I think that it's going to work differently for everybody else. I do a lot better with just a system and a goal towards the work, a couple goals, a near term, a midterm, and a long term. And I worry less about, I guess I worry less about the steps. I give myself a couple things to hit, and I figure it out along the way, because a lot of stuff for me, it's very dynamic and it's always changing. And the projects that I'm working on, and I got a lot of irons in the fire. And so I'm always open to change, and I'm always adjusting my goals to kind of fit where I'm at. So it's highly individualized. A guy that's working at McDonald's, that's just trying to move the needle a little bit, is going to be a little bit different than where we're at, in a kind of a higher income position, willing to sacrifice a lot. So just set some goals, set some intentions, start there, put the systems in place, and then be flexible.
Yeah. And I think it's comical. We just talk about it. It's so fluid for us. We just talk about put the systems in place. Put the systems in place. How many years have we been developing the systems that we do? Like, it takes work. It's not easy. We make it sound so easy. Just get the system, save some money, trim the fat. Dude,
Yeah.
You're on the yellow brick road. It's nothing but gold from here on out.
Right. Yeah.
It's tough. We've spent over a decade building these things individually, myself and you as well, just working through the processes of being broke every single day. Every single paycheck. You remember those things? I haven't had to do them in a long time. I'm pretty sure they still exist. Payday loans. You ever heard of those things?
Yep.
Yeah, I had to pay back like 80% of my check every single week when I was first starting my process. Like it was a pain in the ass. I made decent money, more than the average because I went to a trade school and did X, Y, or Z. But I was doing good, but yeah, I was broke every single week. And so the only like not liquid, but sacrificial finance in my house that I had because I really didn't have anything was groceries, right? So that's kind of like college kids. They always eat poor. You always hear the stories of, oh, those college kids, man, they're just eating top ramen. Well, that was me because I couldn't budget my damn money. I had more than enough money, but for whatever reason, I wasn't placing it in the right spots. And so the only thing that I could do was revert back to the one place that I could cut cost. Well, looks like we're not getting groceries. We're getting not a bucket, but a pack of top ramen, right? It's $5 for an entire pack. And there you go. That's 2 weeks worth of food. But we just say that we make it sound like it's super easy, but it's not. Like we've gone through this for many years and broken it down, and we have a ton of techniques to actually like help us and help other people that we hold ourselves accountable to. It wasn't that long ago that I was busting earballs about that, about different things and how to break it down. So I don't know. I just don't want to like cast out it's easy. Just go ahead and, do some processes and just get it tuned up and you'll be fine. Like, no, it takes work. Like it took a long time for us to get to the place where we can actually be kind of stress-free financially.
And I think the two big words, if there were two big hot button words, it would be discipline and accountability. I think those are the two biggest movers for everything, but especially for finances. And then remember that passion is the fuel for discipline. So if you can start, and this is, going back to everything else that we're going to be talking about and everything that Momentum's kind of become, but find something you're passionate about. Center your discipline and center all of your goals and your economic goals and your financial savings around things that you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be necessarily, like snowboarding or, if you're not passionate about anything in particular, like centered around your family and those kind of things. And if you're passionate about your kids and spending more time with them. So it's not easy, but passion and purpose makes it easier.
Right on.
Yeah, that's been true for me. All right, dude. Let's wrap it up. See you guys next week.
Yeah, buddy. We'll do it next week. See you guys later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.